Kıymetli katılımcılar, programımız birazdan başlayacaktır.
Esteemed participants, our program will begin shortly.
Kıymetli katılımcılar, programımız başlamak üzere.
Esteemed participants, the program will begin shortly.
Hey,
Kıymetli katılımcılar,
Esteemed guests, the program will begin shortly. Please be seated.
please take your seats. Kıymetli katılımcılar, programımız başlıyor. Lütfen yerlerimizi alalım.
Esteemed participants, the program is beginning. Please be seated.
Please take your seats. Sayın Bakanım,
His Excellency, Minister, and distinguished participants, we would like to welcome you to the Revisiting the Last Decade of Turkey-Somalia Relations organized by Africa Foundation and Heritage Institute. We will be discussing the last decade of Turkey and Somalia relations. There are 6 sessions featuring 20 articles. In addition to that, all of the sessions can be found in the YouTube channel, Twitter page, and Zoom link of Africa Foundation's accounts. We have 3 tags: Turkey Symposium 2021, A Decade of Friendship, and 10 Yıllık Dostluk in Turkish. You can use these hashtags. Now I would like to invite the Deputy Chairman of the Board of Trustees, the Head of Symposium Steering from Africa Foundation, Mr. Mehmet Köse. His Excellency, Mr. Minister, esteemed guests, in 2011, the relations between Somalia and Turkey has gained a new level of momentum with the visit of the President of Turkey to Somalia. People may tend to think that Turkey doesn't show as much as attention to the relations between Turkey and Somalia, but our friends from Somalia said, from perspective of Turkey, it is just an ordinary relation, but from the perspective of Somalia, this is very important milestone. It's a new step. What has changed in this decade? We should discuss how does that have an impact on Turkey? How does that direct the relations of Turkey in Africa? We have to elaborate on that. With this suggestion, we have acted on, and as the foundation, we have delved into what we can do, focused on reciprocal cooperation, and organized this event so that we can analyze the relations and the developments. We are very thankful to everyone from Turkey, Somalia, UK, Ethiopia, Kenya. Many researchers have shown interests. We have 20 articles in 6 sessions. That's how we plan the symposium. Personally speaking, the 18 of the articles are scientific papers focusing on first-hand information and sources that go into deeper of the activities in the arena. It is very original. It will be a first in the area. We are talking about 6 sessions: political relations, cultural relations, relations in the field of health, which actually has its own session, the developments in the economic field, socio-cultural developments, the relations in the education sector will be tackled separately. The year 2011 was a beginning in the new period, but actually 5 centuries ago, in the 16th century, Somalia faced security challenges, and they asked for help from the Ottoman Empire to be able to combat with the attacks from Ethiopia nowadays. And these technical supports have helped Somalia resist the attack, and this relations has continued until mid-19th century for 400 years. This was not in the military field only, but it has also enlarged in the fields of economy and development. The relations became weaker as the Somalian state became weak, but relapse again in the new period. Economic, socio-cultural, political relations are the foundations of our current relationship. When you take a look at the relations of Turkey and Somalia, it is not one-sided. It is a reciprocal relationship. And Turkey is involved in it diplomatically, politically, economically, and benefits from it. And so does Somalia in the field of security and infrastructure. In that sense, when we take a look at economic relations of the two countries, we can see that the $4 million of trade volume has increased to $270 million. Only in Ankara, the number of Somalian citizens have established more than 200 establishments. The level of investment is high and is growing. We are thankful to all the business people who have taken steps, but we also need to thank Ziraat Participation Bank so that the economic relations become durable and long-term, because they have paved a way for this long-term relations. First Turkish bank was in Sudan, in Africa, and now there's the branch in Somalia. It is being opened. His Excellency, Mr. Minister, knows it very well that the business people in Turkey and the business people in Somalia have the biggest problem of financial intermediation, the money transfer. And they take place outside the banking system. The biggest contribution and the benefit of Somalian people standing on their feet, the supports of remittance are going to be more secure thanks to the banking systems. The Somalian diaspora sends around $2 billion a month, which is a remittance the workers pay. I am very thankful to be here. I'd like to extend my thanks to you as well, and I'd like to invite the next speaker. I hope God be with us all the time. Thank you. His Excellency, Mr. Minister, distinguished ministers, esteemed head of the symposium, distinguished participants, I would like to extend my heartfelt greetings. I hope this meeting will bear fruit to auspicious events for both Turkey and Somalia. All the steps to be taken here, all the ideas that will come into place, I hope they will be beneficial to everyone. As the chairman has mentioned, Ziraat Participation Bank is the first public participation bank. It is trying to grow in Turkey. On one hand, on the other hand, we have established our first branch abroad in Sudan, Khartoum. We feel like we have the mission of African continent. These financial relations that we have established go back to very deep in the history, and the continent and the states of Africa, we have a great relations with them. It is like we are brothers and sisters, and we hope that these steps will be like bridges to our relationships. We are working on establishing a branch in Mogadishu, Somalia. We hope that these activities will come to an end at the end of the year, after we receive our permits, and we have already signed our agreements. So we have taken steps to finalize the activities. We hope that these activities will be realized actively as soon as possible. We have started to receive suggestions and offers from other African states as well, which make us very happy and very hopeful. When we take a look at the Turkish history, we have the honor of having the first abroad branch in Africa. We are very proud about that. God willing, all these activities, all these steps will be beneficial and auspicious to our country, to Somalia, to Sudan, and I hope that they will strengthen our cooperation. We are very thankful to have you here. We are very happy to have received this invitation. We are very happy to be sponsors here, and I wish success to the Africa Foundation for their future efforts. We benefit greatly from the activities and researches of Africa Foundation. Our brothers, sisters who receive education become the people who are going to work in our branches of the bank. So this is also another dimension of our cooperation. We are very thankful for that as well. I hope that our cooperation will further increase and will be spread throughout the African continent. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to invite the director of Heritage Institute for Policy Studies, Mr. Afyara Elmi. He is also a member of the organization committee.
Sorry, my notes are somewhere else. And by the way, this is my somehow first appearance since I joined that Heritage, so I just wanted to say hi to everybody, and for the ministers, for the diplomats, and for former ambassadors. Just wanted to welcome you to this conference. As you might know, this has been going on for a while, and as a committee that has been working on this, we basically decided to approach it differently by calling more like researchers and people who study the two countries' relationships to prepare papers and present. In terms of the relationship, we're not here to share with you our understanding or what I personally have written about it. It's basically about others who have been following and studying to just give us papers that are based on empirical data about the relationship that has been taken between the two countries. So we're here basically to listen to and respond to more in-depth studies rather than us just giving you about the nature of relationship and what was good about it. As you know, the visit of the then Prime Minister and the current President of Turkey-Somalia meant a lot for Somalia and for Turkey as well. At the time when it happened, I was in Turkey about 10 years ago, and I was really surprised by the extent of the mobilization of the Turkish society at the time, where like everybody knew about the famine, the problems, and all of these things. And the government of Turkey approach was a bit different. At that time, the media was reporting that the mobilization and the money that has been raised was much bigger than the money that Turkish government and society raised for tsunami victims in Indonesia and the floods in Pakistan at the time. So that actually meant a lot. Second is that the visit actually raised the morale of the Somali people and ended the decades of isolation of Somalis and the Somali state at the time. I don't know if you're aware of, but there were largely support coming from the international community, which focused on relief and some development, but the other aspects of life was not, by the way, same as the Turkish approach. So what we have seen 10 years ago was a new model of a new approach where we have seen had few components. Perhaps the best that can express it is the comprehensiveness aspect of this. It involved trade, aid, development, the political aspect, the security, and all of these things. And here we have actually papers on all of those aspects that young researchers and some experienced researchers have taken the time to collect the data and reflect it and analyze. So hopefully we will listen to them and appreciate the efforts that the people who have studied this relationship have given to this cause. I hope that the relationship will even be better in the next 10 years, and I wanted to thank you all. I wanted to welcome you to be part of this conference for the next, 2 days, and I wanted to appreciate the leadership of both countries, Minister Hassan and Minister Yilmaz, who actually joined us in the inauguration session of this. I want to thank you all, and please welcome, and please stay with us for the next 2 days. Thank you.
We would like to thank Professor Elmi for his wonderful speech, and now I would like to invite the chairman of Board of Directors from Africa Foundation, Mr. Hasan Basri Kurt. Esteemed ministers, distinguished guests, Somalia is very significant for us. Of course, the previous speakers mentioned this significance. For the initiative of Africa after 2004-2005, there was an intensive work, and there were various efforts in this area. So this is also seen on the agenda globally, and this is appreciated. Of course, we are not talking about the relations between the states. We are talking also about the commerce, about the civil society, and this will be related to the comprehensiveness. For this reason, there will be the economical development. In addition, there will be the development of the political relations. On the other hand, there will be an increase in terms of the academic capacity. With all these intentions, with all these goodwills, Africa Foundation has been established in 2015, and as of that date, all the activities has been continued. As the foundation in 2019, actually we have made an academy. So we have seen a gap in Turkey because we are in need of the experts of the region, Africa, in terms of academic, intellectual, and political. So we have initiated an academic program as Africa Foundation. So we are very successful on that for 3 years, and we have receiving the support from Istanbul Commerce University, Ankara Social Sciences University. I would like to thank them for their support. And of course, we are going to have the agenda today, but this has started in 2011. The Prime Minister, today's President, Excellency, visited Mogadishu, the capital city of Somalia, and this was the reconstruction. Actually, this was the reconstruction of the infrastructure, the relations, and
This was a kind of hope for the improvement of all these relations in terms of increasing awareness for this relation. And today and tomorrow we are going to have these sessions, and we are going to discuss, we are going to revisit that last decade. So what have we done so far? What kind of good practices that we have learned, and what are we going to have the steps for future? I hope this will be a very beneficial and fruitful symposium for all of us. For the last decade, of course, there are multi-layered initiatives. This is also a contribution for the developments. And of course, we are in cooperation in terms of civil society. We have the Heritage Institute, and we have the partner Heritage Institute, and we have civil society partnerships in Africa. And for Somalia, we are in cooperation with Heritage Institute. We also in cooperation with Somalia City University. We would like to thank Mogadishu City University, Istanbul Commerce University, Ankara Social Sciences University, Lokman Hakim University. Thank you for their supports. And once again, we have the sponsors in terms of the technical assistance, Ziraat Participation Bank, and we have the esteemed DG here. Thank you very much. We have Al Bayrak Companies Group and Favori Group. We have also Medical Park, Lokman Hekim, and Live hospitals. So we would like to thank their contributions and support for organizing this two-day symposium. Thank you very much. So we are going to be here for 2 days, and I hope this symposium will be very beneficial for all of us. And we are going to establish the roadmap for the next 10 years, and we are going to discuss the last decade relations. Thank you very much, and I would like to greet you all with my respect. We would like to thank Hasan Basri Kurt for the speech. And now I would like to invite the Minister of Planning, Investment and Economic Development of the Federal Government of Somalia, Gamal Mohammed Hassan. The floor is yours, sir.
Assalamu alaikum. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Subah wanaagsan. I'm honored to be taking part in this historic event commemorating the 10th anniversary of reestablishing relations between our two brotherly countries. On the 19th of August 2011, as Somalia struggled to cope with one of its most devastating droughts in recent history, His Excellency Recep Tayyip Erdogan, then Turkish Prime Minister, landed in Aden Abdullah International Airport in Mogadishu with Her Excellency the First Lady and senior government officials, including cabinet members and their families, bringing the world's attention to a country that has been viewed for 2 decades from a counterterrorism lens, toiling in obscurity at the periphery of global politics. This visit, however, translates to a lot more than news bites. The Turkish government, Turkish people, and NGOs immediately mobilized one of their largest humanitarian operations, creating an important precedent for a wider international response to the ongoing crisis in Somalia at the time. Since then, our historic alliance has only grown in significance and strength. Today, Somalia is home to Turkey's largest embassy complex in the world, as well as its largest overseas military facility that trains thousands of Somali National Army soldiers every year. In the past decade, the Turkish Cooperation and Coordination Agency, TICA, has invested in more than 180 projects in Somalia across a number of sectors, including the agro-industry, health, education, and other important areas. At the same time, The Turkish private sector has contributed to creating a tangible economic growth through their investments in Somalia's core infrastructure facilities. The Turkish government has also prioritized accelerating social development in Somalia, making notable investments in health and educational services. For example, today, ex-Dikfer Hospital, or Erdogan Hospital as known in Somalia, treats thousands of Somali patients on an annual basis and trains a new generation of Somali doctors and nurses. To be specific, so far the hospital has treated over 2 million Somalis and completed over 30,000 surgeries. Turkish universities opened their doors to Somali students, granting scholarships to more than 1,200 Somali students. It's also worth mentioning that the Turkish airline was the first long-haul international flight carrying passengers to and from Mogadishu in decades, opening the gates to other international airlines operating in Somalia today. And given Turkey's strong trade and manufacturing capacity, bilateral trade between Somalia and Turkey has grown almost tenfold, from $35 million in 2011 to close to $300 million in 2020, and the numbers are growing. As you may have seen, and we just heard from a representative from Sirat Participation Bank, the bank is in process of opening a branch in Mogadishu. In fact, the construction of the building is currently ongoing, and we hope to see it opening very soon. On the other hand, the Somali business and diaspora communities have invested a lot in Turkey. Today, close to 20,000 Somali families, those holding Somali passports, live in Turkey, and we believe more than that number, or double of that number, those with foreign passports live in Turkey. Thousands of Somalis bought properties and established businesses and roots in Turkey. Somalia is also home to a large number of thriving Turkish private businesses that are providing quality goods and services for our people. The two governments have also signed over 30 agreements covering areas from investment to security cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, I came across a Turkish saying that says, Turkish, Gerçek bir arkadaş dünyanın geri kalanı hayatına çıkarken hayatına güvendirir. It translates to, a real friend is one who walks in when the rest of the world walks out. Under the leadership of His Excellency President Erdogan, Turkey has demonstrated to the rest of the world what true brotherly relations between two countries entail. Lifting your brother up at this hour of need. Thanks to the resilience of the Somali people and the unremitting assistance from our friends and international partners, Somalia is on a very promising development trajectory. The seeds that have been sown in past decade are beginning to bear fruit, perhaps most significantly, as demonstrated by the increased capacity of our Turkish-trained SNS soldiers to maintain peace and counter terrorist activities across the country. In the next 2 days, experts and scholars gathered at this symposium will discuss different aspects of the relations between our two countries. I believe that our shared experiences, shared religious and cultural values will continue to be the beacon that guide our friend relations to further heights. To conclude, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the Africa Foundation and the Heritage Institute for your efforts in further strengthening relations between our two people, and for hosting this commendable event. Thank you very much.
Konuşmaları için
We would like to thank the esteemed minister for the speech. And now I would like to invite the chairman of Parliamentary Planning and Budget Committee from the Turkish Grand National Assembly, Mr. Cevdet Yılmaz. The floor is yours, sir. Excellency, esteemed participants, distinguished guests, I would like to greet you all with my respect. And I'm very pleased to be here together with you in such a significant symposium. As the country, both in the administration and in the community, of course, we have a very special place for Somalia, and in terms of the relations with the country, and especially for the last decade of Turkey-Somalia relations, we are going to have various discussions. I hope this meeting, this symposium will be very beneficial for all of us. And I would like to thank the Africa Foundation and the Heritage Institute for our organizing such a symposium. Of course, we are going to have very valuable names. We are going to have the academicians, researchers, NGO representatives, especially for peace building, increasing the capacity, and establishing and improving the infrastructure for the security. All these topics will be discussed. In addition, economical, historical, and cultural relations will be addressed. So we are going to have the contributions from all these stakeholders. And once again, I would like to thank all the contributors in advance. Esteemed guests, today in Mogadishu, of course, we had the visit of the President, His Excellency Recep Tayyip Erdogan. So there will be comprehensive organization in Mogadishu today. So at the same time, we are going to have different events today. So this is also showing how precious this relationship. We have a very intensive cooperation, and this will improve in the future. All these activities, all these organizations are far beyond the evaluation of the last decade of the relations, but this will also shed light for the future. In the last 10 years, of course, not only the humanitarian aid for our brothers in Somalia, we have also experienced the cooperation for all the relevant fields. This cooperation is a very good example. This is a model relation, cooperation. This for the international humanitarian aid, for the international development assistance. We can see we have a significant dimension, but we need to evaluate the outputs, because you are going to see the reflection on the side. When you try to examine this reflection, unfortunately, these resources cannot be used properly for the international ones. But in Somalia, we can see the resources and we can see the outputs. When we compare all these outputs, we can see a very significant accomplishment. And from the Heritage Institute, the speaker mentioned, so this support will have a holistic approach, a comprehensiveness. This is not a single way. There is the bilateral relation. So all these are organized together and focusing on the real need, not only the public, but also embracing the civil society and the private sector. With all these characteristics for the humanitarian aids, this will also lead the way for all other international humanitarian aids. Of course, during this process, the ministers, the individuals of the family of the Excellency, on the 19th of August, 10 years ago, there was a visit in Mogadishu, and this was like a milestone, and all the representatives from the commerce, art, so this was giving an end to the loneliness in Somalia. The perceptions have been changed for the Somalia. So there was a very strong change, and our embassy was established in Mogadishu, and in addition, Turkish Airlines was also another milestone. because I remember Bekir Bozdağ was the deputy minister, and we had a visit in Mogadishu after 2 years of the visit of His Excellency. And as the development minister, I had the opportunity to see all those improvements in Mogadishu, and I have experienced such transformation. I would like to highlight once again that this relation is a model. This relation will be a good example for the world. Not only for the technical analysis, I mean, this is far beyond these relations. I would like to share my experience from those days. For the public of Somalia, there was a very crucial period for 20 years, and then I had the opportunity to see that the society was very strong. There were the supports from Turkey, and then I have realized the impact on the society. I was walking around the streets in Mogadishu, and I realized that the public and all those people were repairing the shops, cleaning the stores. So they were very optimistic. They had the high morale. So I have seen that morale, and I have seen that improvement. And with the visits of the Excellency President, then, of course, this will be another opportunity for the improvements. There were some national stakeholders, and after the visit, there were various improvements in different fields.
The mission of humanitarian aid and development that we have initiated in Somalia has taken its place in history as one of the most successful steps taken in Turkish history. Economy, resettlement, reconstruction, education, health are some of the fields that were included in this effort simultaneously that will complement one another. Starting with our embassy, all our NGOs have been active in supporting Somalian sisters and brothers in the field. This symposium is very important so that our brothers, our sisters receive their rightful place in the international arena. Apart from the public sphere, the NGOs and private sector plays a role, because this is a phenomenon that is being discussed in the international arena as well. Because with the sole endeavor of the public sphere, the efforts cannot be achieved fully. We need the support of NGOs and private sector, and we have been very successful in that as well. Ziraat Participation Finance institution has a great and meaningful step in that. I would like to extend my congratulations to the General Director and everyone involved, because banks are not only places of financial transaction, but they trigger relations on every level of play. I have just heard it briefly. We need to note one thing down. We need more financial institutions in more numbers of African countries. We need them to be active in many more countries. I think it's very important to underline. So congratulations to Ziraat Participation Bank. Once more, I hope it will bear fruit to auspicious events. It's not only enough to take a look at the history. With the natural sources of Somalia and the young and dynamic population, I have no doubt that Somalia will reach its desired and earned place. With the establishment of the long-lasting stability and order, it is of utmost importance to have a functioning government. Dear friends, when we take a look at Somalia, we know that it's not going to be a poor country. anymore because it has actually a very large shore to see on one hand. On the other hand, they have great opportunities for fisheries. On the other hand, you have to see the beauty of their shores. Somalia is a very beautiful country. The touristic opportunities are vast in Somalia. It's also a country of agriculture. It has a great potential for agriculture. And on the other hand, it has a very young population with a young and strong diaspora. So it has great opportunities in commerce as well. With all the opportunities, Somalia can improve very quickly. When I was the minister, I also had the chance to support the development of Somalia. We have heard that they are working on the vision of 2050, and they will work on 5-year periods of plans. I think that's a very wonderful thing to do. We need to prioritize fields, and we need to pick the strengths of Somalia, considering the people and the sources, and also making realistic plans will pave the way for successful future. We will continue to be beside our Somalian brothers and sisters, just like the past. Our good relations will continue into future. All elements of Somalian society, despite their background, ethnicity, they are all our brothers and sisters. We will have no distinction whatsoever. We will always be continuing our relations with considering everyone. Somalia is on the brink of a new period. In this new period, our Somalian brothers and sisters have the role to play to take the steps necessary, and I believe that they have the power and willpower to do so. In the ongoing political process, I hope all parties act in a calm manner and work with a constructive approach. Because there are many other examples that we see in different countries. No country can achieve stability or development with the direction of other countries. Genuine, long-lasting stability can only be achieved with inner dynamics. These inner dynamics and healthy relations with other countries in the world is the recipe to go. Democracy, development cannot be imported. No country can export these values to another country. With only the engagement of the citizens of your own country, you can achieve this. And Somalia gives very different messages to the world, very positive messages to the world. We hope that these positive messages will carry on in the future. With the opposition, with the ruling party, and all the elements of the society, we believe that Somalia will have a very bright future, so that the Somalian citizens can enjoy a more prosperous and healthy life. I'd like to take the opportunity to extend my thanks to all parties who have made the symposium a reality. Thank you very much. We would like to extend our thanks to His Excellency, the Minister. And now I would like to invite Mr. Hasan Basri Kurt to convey the messages of the President of the Republic of Turkey. His Excellency, the President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, has extended the following message to this symposium. Distinguished directors of Africa Foundation, esteemed members of the federal government of Somalia, esteemed guests, I would like to extend my greetings to you with most heartfelt feelings and affection. Thank you very much for your kind invitation, and I hope that the International Symposium on Revisiting the Last Decade of Turkey and Somalia Relations be successful and bears fruit to auspicious developments. I would like to welcome all the guests who are coming from abroad, especially the Somalians. 10 years ago, I had the chance to visit Mogadishu with my family at a time when Somalia was facing drought, famine, and instability. This grave scene that we have witnessed in Mogadishu not only deeply wounded us, but was also embarrassing in the name of humanity. With this historical visit, we have had the aim to put Somalia on the international public opinion. Praise be to Allah, we became successful in the sincere intention. The humanitarian aid and development mission that we have started in Somalia with our public offices, private sector and NGOs have bared its fruits in a very brief amount of time. Somalia was described as a collapsed state in 2011, but now it has progressed to a level that was unimaginable back then in the fields of security, economy, politics, health, transportation, investments, and education. As a sign of the importance we attach to Somalia, we have launched our new building of embassy, the biggest diplomatic mission of Turkey in Mogadishu in 2016. We have provided incentives to our companies to be able to fulfill the infrastructure of Somalia. We have also supported the security forces so that the Somalian people can be served the way they deserve in education and by the army, and their capacities are supported. We have used every means available to help Somalia stand on its feet and reach the place it deserves in its region in the international arena. The total amount of the aid provided by Turkey to Somalia since 2011 has exceeded $1 billion, and the trade volume between Turkey and Somalia has increased from $8 million to $280 million. The noble people of Somalia, with a history of great struggle, now are hopeful for the future, and they are the shining stars heading towards the bright future. And the friendship, affection, and collaboration shown from Turkey-Somalia and to our brothers and sisters have a great role in the success that impresses the whole world. Our biggest goal is to preserve the exceptional position that we have in the Somalian people's hearts. All of the elements of Somalian society are our genuine brothers and sisters, no matter what political perspective they have, whatever identity they have, or ethnical background they have. We have no expectation but the peace and stability and well-being and welfare of our brothers and sisters. We hope that the ongoing political process will be finalized in the most successful way with the foresight of the political leaders. I hope that this symposium will bear fruit to auspicious developments. And I also would like to extend my gratitude and congratulations to Africa Foundation and Heritage Institute for spearheading this meaningful symposium, and I would like to extend my gratitude to all parties who will contribute to this wonderful event. The President of the Republic of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Now I would like to keep you on the stage so that you can extend the certificates to our participants. Unfortunately, the wildfires are ongoing and spreading, and we have provided donation to saplings, and we will deliver the certificates of that. Afyara Elmi, Mr. Cemal Muhammed Hassan, Mr. Cevdet Yılmaz, you are invited to the stage. Microphone, please. I hope our forests will be much more green with the help of the saplings.
Because we had forest fires recently in Turkey. This is a certificate. You have one tree now.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for this, and I'm happy to see that there is a tree that has been planted on my name. Wow, that's something that I have not expected. Nice surprise. Thanks.
No, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's truly an honor. This is also a special day commemorating the 10th anniversary. Those timing is very important. And we also pray to Allah that the fires taking place in the country will stop, inshallah. This is happening in so many places due to climate shocks, climate change globally. So inshallah, Turkey, with your resilience, with strength, and the Turkish people's determination, this will have a huge impact. Thank you very much.
These trees are planted only in Turkey or in Somalia too? We also want trees to be planted in Somalia as well. Thank you. Distinguished members, as we have distributed the certificates, hereby the opening session is closed. We have a 15 minutes of coffee break, and we will continue with the first panel, Building Societal Capacity and Peace Building.
Dear participants, we are taking a 15-minute coffee break. The sessions will continue after the break.
saygıdeğer katılımcılar, sempozyumumuzun birinci oturumu birazdan
The first session of the symposium will begin briefly. We would like to invite all the guests to their seats.
Başlayın. Değerli misafirler, sempozyumumuzun
Esteemed guests, now we will begin with this first session. The first session with the title Building Societal Capacity and Peace Building is about to begin. Please take your seats.
Dear participants, the session is about to begin. Please take your seats. Efendim? Tamam. Tamam. Değerli misafirler, oturum başlamak üzere lütfen salondaki yerlerinizi alınız. Distinguished guests, the session is about to begin. Please take your seats. Değerli misafirler, oturum başlamak üzere lütfen yerlerimizi alalım.
Distinguished guests, the session is about to start. Please be seated.
Değerli misafirler, oturum başlamak üzere. Lütfen salondaki yerlerimizi alalım. Distinguished guests, the session is about to begin. Please take your seats. Evet, değerli misafirler, sempozyumumuzun toplumsal...
Esteemed guests, here we begin the first session of our symposium with the title Building Societal Capacity and Peace Building. Now I'd like to invite our panelists. Our moderator is Mr. Abdullahi Abarise, Mr. Altekin Cihangir İşbilir, Mr. Salah Ali Hassan. You are invited to the floor. And Madam Zeynep Muhammed Hassan. Professor Dr. Abdullah Barise, Madam Zeynep Muhammed Barise, Mr. Altekin Cihangir İşbilir, Ebu Zer Demirci, and Mr. Salah Ali Hassan. You are invited to this floor. Distinguished guests, we are at the first session of our symposium with the title Building Societal Capacity, Achieving Peace.
Günaydın. We welcome you, all of you, and we greet you. Before I start my moderation role, I would like to convey a message that I have been asked to convey from the Somali community in Canada. I visited Canada and I have met with some of the leaders there, and they have asked me to convey to you their greetings and also their greetings and gratitude to the people and government of Turkey. Indeed, this relationship is a relationship and bonding between two communities, not only at the governmental level, but mainly between two communities. When I was there, I have observed that in the businesses of the Somali community, whenever there is a Somali flag, there is also a Turkish flag. To the extent that some foreigners asked them, as they told me, are your businesses funded by Turkey? Or do you have Turkish partners? So with that note, I will go to the session. The theme of this session is building societal capacity and achieving peace. And we have 3 presentations, inshallah, very interesting ones. We shall start, or before I mention the first session, the first presentation, I should mention that, every presenter has 15 minutes. And then after all presentations, there will be the questions and discussion, inshallah ta'ala. So, our first presenter is Ms. Zainab Muhammad Hassan, and the title is Somali Women's Perspectives on the Role of Turkey in Peace Building and Conflict Resolution in Somalia. Ms. Zainab holds Masters of Public Affairs from Humphrey School of Public Affairs, University of Minnesota. She also graduated with honors from Old Dominion University, earning BS. Ms. Hassan has served several advisory boards and committees for local, national, and international organizations. She is the founder of and the executive director of the Somali Gender Equity Movement, a global movement advocating and promoting women's equity in the public decision-making arena. Welcome, Zainab, and deliver your presentation.
Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. Subah wa naksin. Sorry. Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. Subah wa naksin. I greet you all. And I'm so glad and honored to be part of this conference, especially this symposium that brings together the scholars to discuss and present their findings. My paper was specifically done for this symposium, the Somali-Turkish relations and revisiting the 10 years anniversary. I have done the research on Somali women's perspectives on the role of Turkey in peace building and conflict resolution in Somalia. Usually, they say researchers not only tell all the good, but they tell mainly everything that they find. Some of the findings in this paper were part of the things that have been discussed, this morning by the plenary speakers, including the visit of the former Prime Minister Erdogan in 2011, and the hope and the changes that brought to the Somali people, especially in time of need. This research investigated Somali women's perspectives, and specifically have done mainly in the methodology. I used qualitative research methods, incorporating also quantitative survey findings. And the purpose of this research is to inform the perspectives of Somali women with respect to Turkey's peace building and conflict resolution in Somalia. It begins with the methodology used for this research and provides a brief history of Somalia. It further highlights the results of this research and the discussion of the research in relation to the existing literature using secondary data for mainly to incorporate that into the research. The preliminary data was collected through semi-structured interviews, and I interviewed 25 people, mainly 19 females and 6 males. Secondary data collection was also included reviews of literature and relevant documents for this topic. Ironically, at least 72% of the participants interviewed for this research have visited Turkey at least once in their lifetime. And that tells us the relationship of Somalia and Somali people and Turkey. Mainly, many people visit Turkey or made home in Turkey for business, as well as also for health, for mainly diaspora Somalis, and mostly trade and investment. I will highlight few of the findings, specifically those that incorporate quantitative data, and then we'll have few discussions. Since I have a little time, I also want to make sure that you read the papers when they are published. So I'm not going to give you all the juice, but I'll give you some of it. Mainly the results of this, the Turkey-Somalia relations obviously goes back to the Ottoman Empire. However, this renewed relationship was cemented, as some of the speakers mentioned, and the findings of the research found during the visit of the former Prime Minister and current President Erdogan in Somalia during the crisis of famine and mainly droughts, that actually has stuck with the Somali people, as they mainly appreciate it, and they also have a gratitude for Turkey in their sisterly and brotherly relations and support. If I use a quote, one of the participants, a female youth working in the private sector in Mogadishu, said, when Prime Minister Erdogan, his family, and some of his ministers came to Somalia, it created a lot of hope. Traveling to Afgoye by road at a time of conflict has shown the world that it is doable. Turkey provided humanitarian assistance, opened its embassy, and started businesses like the Turkish Airways, while Somalia was still isolated. Turkey has done some tangible services to Somalia, and we are grateful. So the Somali people, all the participants interviewed have spoken how grateful they are and the changes that, that visit, and obviously the significance of providing support to Somalia, whether it is humanitarian assistance, whether it's development, whether it is education, such as scholarships, and the involvement of the multi-sector Turkish, both the private sector, the NGOs, and the government, has made a significant difference in Somalia. There are many peace building and conflict resolution and reconciliation efforts ongoing in Somalia across the federal member states. There are always something that is happening, doing by somebody. However, most of the work that are more tangible and more useful are done by the Somalis that are not actually receiving a whole lot of funding. Another quote says, there are plenty of so-called peace building and reconciliation in Somalia, but there are few that have direct focus in peace building and reconciliation. These projects are run by the United Nations and NGOs, but the real peace building and reconciliation processes and programs are not funded and are carried out by the local Somali people, including communities, traditional elders, and women groups and organizations. This is a male civil society organization leader in Berbera, Somaliland. The role of Turkey in peace building in Somalia were also looked at. And one of the questions was how aware were the Somali people on what the work that Turkey is doing. 100% of the 25 people interviewed were aware of Turkey's work, whether it's the security sector and the training of the Somali armed forces, or whether it is development projects, humanitarian assistance, or the relationship between the two countries. So 100% were aware of it, which means at least Turkey is doing some significant work in Somalia. The research also, and some of the key things that they identified that Turkey is doing is the security training, equipping, and supporting the Somali armed forces, capacity building for Somali ministries, development of private schools and hospitals, financial support to the federal government of Somalia, infrastructure building, like the roads and also buildings, economic development through the renovation and management of this seaport and the airport in Mogadishu, humanitarian sector assistance and supporting IDPs and settlements, as well as the private sector development. Those are some of the things that the research highlighted. There are also some other areas that people think Turkey is not mainly doing a whole lot, even though Turkey has, this is my second time in Turkey, and in 2012, I think it was May, there was a conference that was held in Istanbul. At the time I came from Minnesota. I was one of the diaspora people that were invited, and it was about bringing the Somali people together, specifically at least the 135 traditional elders who were supposed to select the upcoming then parliament after the transition of Somalia. Also, so one of the things, even though that came up, and some of the people do know and others are not aware of it, the research participants said that Turkey does not play a big role directly in peace building and reconciliation and conflict resolution directly, as there are no explicit ongoing peace building, reconciliation, or conflict resolution programs on the ground. However, the study acknowledges the nexus between peace building, security, and development. For instance, the education, training of the improved security can be a long-term contribution to peace building. Turkey also does not play a visible role in social and political reconciliation directly. Aside from the Somaliland dialogue, people think that they are not much involved and are not doing a whole lot in those areas. Also, Turkey's rebuilding of the security sector is well noted. The quality of the training that Turkey provides to the Somali troops is considered top-notch, unlike the trainings that were previously done by neighboring countries. And one of the participants, a female member of parliament in Mogadishu, said, the troops they train are high quality and give specialized training. Turkey is very disciplined and well-trained people, and the Somali troops they train are very disciplined. So those are some of the really, key findings. Participants were asked to rate the contribution of Turkey in peace building and conflict resolution in Somalia. And mainly, at least 44% of the people rated high, 36% rated moderate, 16% rated very high, and only 4% said it's low, and none were 0%. That means, the high quality trainings of the security services and providing full equipment, including provision of vehicles, salaries, and other materials will yield beneficial to the security and stability of Somalia. But the training in itself is not without controversy, according to the findings. There are actual controversies surrounding the role of the special forces trained by Turkey, the way they played on the political conflicts in Jubaland and in southwest states, and the recent conflicts that took place in Mogadishu and Banat region in general, between the federal government and the opposition groups. Participants noted, while the special forces trained by the United States of America did not participate, the federal government of Somalia used Turkey-trained forces for the opposition. Therefore, a lot of people were actually recommending that Turkey should actually get involved in how the troops they train are used in the future. Overall, I think the airport, the contribution of the infrastructure, the development, the humanitarian, all these things are positively rated in the research findings. Now, the perspectives of peace building, conflict, and development projects that Turkey supports, those that directly are run or led by women, are painting kind of a different, actually, picture than the general perspective of Turkey's support to Somalia. And specifically, people who were in the regions reiterated that Turkey is mainly focused only in the federal government, supporting the federal government directly, but it's not seen in the regions, especially in the federal member states, as well as the support of the civil society in general. So when participants were asked the awareness of peace-building, conflict resolution, or development project led by Somali women that Turkey supports, it was quite the flip of the general one. They said 0. 0% that Turkey is supporting projects, initiatives, or programs led by women. That was quite unanticipated, to say the least, honestly. And I think the study also reveals none of the participants were aware of the peace building and conflict resolution or development project or programs that women are doing that Turkey is supporting. Also, when participants were asked the same question to rate the support of Turkey by programs and projects led by Somali women, it was also kind of the flip of the regular ones. While 65% have said low, 13% said moderate, but none of them rated very high or high. And at least 26% have said none. So that there is a gap and disparity between the investment of Turkey on women's mainly in organizations or initiatives or programs compared to, in general, what Turkey is doing in Somalia. But that, needless to say, that overall, when Turkey contributes to development and humanitarian, obviously women are the majority of beneficiaries in that sense. I mean, the education sector and scholarships, we don't have disaggregated data to say that that number was females, but some of the people I talked to, I mean, rated that they were more male than females when we are talking about the scholarship of students from Somalia to Turkey. But I don't have a clear data to say exactly, you know, what the numbers are. I think, I mean, overall, what we see is that Somali women contribute to peace building and conflict resolution in Somalia. And if it wasn't Somali women, many believe that Somalia would have been in a worse place than it is today. And that it's more important that Turkey contributes and supports Somali women initiatives and projects, because that could yield a faster results. Also, women across Somalia has been, I mean, mainly contributing, but obviously in terms of leadership, in terms of political participation, Somali women are marginalized, and that's not actually only unique to Somalia. I mean, let's just look at academia and where we are. Even today in this room, are we equal? I mean, all these speakers before me were all male. So let's just face it. It's a reality, even in academia, where the discussions and scholarly work is being presented. The paper, I'm not sure how many more minutes I have.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. Overall, I think mainly what this paper discusses is that the need for Turkey to contribute more into peace building and conflict resolution directly. Two, to look at the work that it's doing, even though it's multifaceted, to gear towards gender-oriented. Needless to say that there are some changes within Turkey, and we are hoping in the next, hopefully, 10 years from now, that things will change, because Turkey has started training all-female police officers this year. I mean, the first cohort. So if that trend continues, we can see a difference in that area. There are a list of recommendations, and some of those recommendations, key recommendations, include that Turkey should focus on supporting women scholars, especially, you know, religious scholars, as well as scholars from all different sectors. They should partner also with the Ministry of Interior and Federal Affairs in terms of reconciliation and peace building, and Ministry of Women, and connect the Ministry of Women and civil society organizations, and mainly NGOs led by women in Turkey, to those who are in Somalia, so they can learn from each other and support each other. I'll just mainly close that, Turkey is doing a great work, and it needs to focus more into the federal member states, as well as women-led programs and initiatives and non-governmental organizations, so things can be felt on the ground and have seen on the ground. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Zainab, for this quite interesting presentation. Next, we will move on to the contribution of Somali and Turkish NGOs to peace and security establishment in Somalia. We have two co-authors, Ebenir Demirci is first one, and there is also Altakin Jihangir Eshbilir. Now, Mr. Ebenir Demirci graduated from Ankara University, International Relations major. He did his master's degree in the US Northern University in the area of diplomacy. And Altakin he works for the Anatolian Agency as the News Academy Manager. He has BA and MA in International Relations from Ankara University. He focuses on conflict in his PhD. Welcome. First, Mr. Ebenir will, do some presentation, part of the presentation, and after that, everything will follow. Thank you.
So thank you very much. But I want to continue my speech in my language, Turkish. And I know there is a translation here. Herkese hoş geldiniz demek istiyorum.
I would like to welcome all. My name is Ebuzer. With Cihangir Bey, we are focusing on the contributions of Somali and Turkish NGOs to peace and security establishment in Somalia. But before I delve into the article, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the person who is responsible for this event. As you know, 10 years ago, today's President of Republic of Turkey, the Prime Minister back then, paid a visit to Somalia by putting himself and those with him at risk. I think we are indebted to our president for these developments. He has paved the way. We don't have too much time. We will try to present our article very briefly. Yes, we have focused on the role of Somali and Turkish NGOs in peace building and security establishment. Even though this symposium is about revisiting the last decade, we had to go back more in the history. Even though the Turkish NGOs are active in the relations with Somalia for 10 years, but the NGOs in Somalia have been active much more than that time. There are three main foundations that make sure that the Somalian NGOs are operational. First one is history, the second one is sociology and culture. When we take a look at the history, of course, it creates the sociology and culture. Why do we mention history? When we take a look at the 40 years to 50 years of Somalia, I can tell you that I have focused on my master's in the disintegration of Somalia, and then it proclaimed its independency. And back then, there is the Somalia Youth League that paved the way for the independence of Somalia. With the independence of Somalia, we see the president of Abin Abdullah Osman, and until 1969, Somalia becomes a very prosperous country, and it was named and coined as the Switzerland of Africa. But after a period of time, the process is reshaped, and in 1977 with the Obadan War, and in 1991 there is the internal war. The society and the state collapses totally, and then Somalia is left to the hands of the Somalian lords. Then we start describing it as a failed state. As you know, from 1991 until 2011, Somalia looks like a failed state, and the state cannot function with its own power, and that results in the establishment and birth of NGOs and them becoming active. After the visit of our president, the Turkish NGOs start playing a role, and also, of course, the Somalian NGOs continue their working. There's NGOs coming from some diaspora as the first group, and then there's the second group. After the state fails, there is internal displacement of people, and then people migrate to many different areas, Sudan, Yemen, many other countries, and wherever they go, the Somalians establish their own humanitarian aid NGOs. After the visit of the president, Turkish NGOs are also playing a role, such as Turkish Red Crescent, İHA, and many other NGOs. And 10 years from then on, with the increased relations, there is the Somalian NGOs. I'd like to give an end to my speech now and pass the floor to Cihangir Bey so that he can continue. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ebuzer Bey. Thank you very much, distinguished moderator. I would like to start by saying that thank you to African Foundation, all the organizations involved. Actually, the last finding of Zeynep Hanım is one of our finding as well. What she mentioned is something that we have also found. İnönü University, the African Researchers Journal, featured that. İsmail Söylemez is the leader of that journal. Now we are going into depth by countries, different countries. It is a good day to say good stuff, but we also need to change the future. We should also talk about our shortcomings, just like Zeynep Hanım did. Madam Zeynep did. We need to identify the capacity gaps so that we can improve upcoming 20, 30 years to become successful. That is why the field activity, field research is very important. As you may all know, NGOs are supporting actors. They are not central actors. But as the time progresses, we see that they become indispensable for the central function. This is a truth that we cannot ignore. In our research, we have found 8 categories. Madam Zeynep focused on the women's side. We have 8 different categories. Just like Ebuzer mentioned, protection is a very important function. NGOs have the role of providing protection. But as you know, as we have put in our article very well, the clan style used to provide this protection, or the NGOs that are close to clans used to execute this function of protection. Now it is more professional. And it should be so with a capacity, because when we are speaking of protection, it's not about health and body, but identity, but protection of women, just like you said, the psychological protection. These are also involved. We have this journal called Africania, and we have an article in it, and we said that the Turkish NGOs also have lack in their capacity. The concept of protection is not taken into account when providing humanitarian aid. We should not ignore that. There is one thing that I can exclude this, the orphanages. Even though there is not enough number of orphanages, they play a role in protecting. They protect the children who doesn't have any parents. We also have some Turkish orphanages as well as Somalian orphanages. There is also Islamic NGOs that have established orphanages, but it's not enough to establish them. Only you need to manage them in a very healthy way. When we take a look at the international media, we see some negative media coverage. Of course, these negative media coverage should not clear out all the positive deeds, but we should be very careful because these orphans are entrusted to us. And orphanages should be focused in a much more comprehensive manner by Turkish NGOs. And the primary and pioneering role of NGOs are observing and assessment. They should be. Of course, some NGOs do it to a certain extent. Africa foundations do that, think tanks do that, Think too. So the universities, institutes do that, but Turkish and Somali NGOs doing only observation, they do not exist. Human rights, the situation of women, the situation of children, these should be taken into account. We need an NGO working exclusively on that, and we haven't found any of them. This is very important for one reason. I will mention Madam Zeynep once more. We are very happy to have elite level of relations with the government. The Prime Minister, the President, reciprocal relations. There is the publication of the Minister of Justice. They are working, Abdul Kadir Bey. But when we take a look at the federal government, how much do we exist in the field? The Turkish NGOs, the Islamic NGOs, we are not at a great level in that sense. We don't have it in the Turkish NGOs, and in local partners, we don't have it due to the sociological structure. In federal states, the capacity is not enough, unfortunately. Jubilant, they have some, Somaliland, they have some, but it's not enough on a general level due to the clan-based management, that structure. That should transform into a more national form. The social adaptation projects should be more emphasized. And there's another thing you said, Madam Zeynep, the women should be leading NGOs. It's very important to have them. We need more women inclusivity. It's not just about focusing on the gender, but there's another issue. It's very important. When you take a look at the tradition, the Islamic structures, Islamic sects, the Islamic Sufi movements, they are very influential. The clan leaders are very influential. But I'm going to talk about this. There is also a radicalism tendency, terrorism. They lead to our efforts being failed in the end. Having said all this, the Islamic leaders, the religious leaders, for example, maybe the heads of religious affairs or the religious affairs foundations, they should take Islamic initiatives to improve relations. This is added newly to the literature. We need to move towards de-radicalization. It is a must. We cannot run away from that. We cannot turn a blind eye because the elite bureaucracy is working on that, of course, but the NGOs should focus on social adaptation in the field, in the topic of de-radicalization, because there is the radicalization tendency because of the interpretation of some sects, and we need the involvement, engagement of religious leaders. We need women religious leaders, of course, the youth, the society who are sympathetic to Esh-Shabab. They should be put in these projects. There is also the social services. There's human aid, humanitarian aid. Turkey is developing a model in humanitarian aid, but we don't have a complete model yet. But there is an emerging and developing humanitarian aid model of Turkey. There's international publications on that as well. The development aid, for example, by institutions like TİKA, and humanitarian aid provided by other institutions are different. You can make this distinction. There is Nairobi-centered, Gulf-centered humanitarian aid agencies, but they have other agendas. I don't think would be hard to say that. We have an win-win agenda, at least. There is also affection and humanitarian perspective too. We know that, and our Somali brothers and sisters see that as well. But there is also the risks of Islamification and other issues. During UN peace operations and the aftermath, there are certain humanitarian agencies that manipulate and exploit humanitarian aid. There are certain agencies that do that. We need to be very careful about these risks. And the topic of humanitarian aid, and also the Turkish NGOs focusing on humanitarian aid, should focus on development aid, vocation training courses. These should be added to these fields. We need to enrich it as such, and this can only be made with the cooperation of Somalia and Turkey, but we are still amateurs. We don't have the capacity that is necessary. The advocacy function is also very important. We see that both the Somalian and Turkish NGOs do it together, but when we take a look at the NGOs, they are advocates of women, youth, people, human rights. Tackling with the topics of infringements of human rights, they need to announce these as well, but there are risks as well. Not all the NGOs should do them. These NGOs should have their roots in the public, otherwise it may result in a security problem. And there is also the aspect that we need to have good relations with the media. There's Anatolian agency, we have an Africa desk. An Anatolian agency is very active in bringing the voice of Somalians to the world.
But of course, there should be an increase for the local media, and this should be interrelated with the civil society. Therefore, there will be an increase in the awareness activities and also for the advocacy. As Africa Foundation or as NGOs and think tanks, of course, they have another function. As you all know, we can have the peace-making, peace-achieving organizations, and NGOs had a very significant role in Djibouti and some other places. So they should increase their capacity. They can bring the leaders together. And at secondary level, all the society leaders should be brought together, and from top to bottom diplomacy should be established. There should be a cosmopolitan diplomacy. So this is also one of the roles of the NGOs. For this reason, the foundations, all these organizations work very hard. For the next 20, 30 years, there should be a second way of diplomacy with the businessmen, and there should be civil initiatives, and there should also be an increase for those civil initiatives. All these topics are included in our research. Which NGO will have what kind of function? What are the gaps? Where are the gaps? What kind of a capacity to be established? Therefore, this elite level diplomacy will be at the bottom level. As the chair stated, there will be more relation among the communities, and this will be disseminated at the bottom line. So this is also included in our research. And once again, I would like to thank the chair, and I would like to thank the Africa Foundation and all the stakeholders. Thank you very much. Once again, I would like to take the floor. As Mr. Cihangir stated, there should be an increase in the capacity of the NGOs. But on the other hand, if we're going to talk about this capacity building, first of all, the state should bear their responsibilities, because sometimes NGOs can work very hard, but it won't be very possible for all these NGOs if the states fulfill their responsibilities. And we have seen the example in 1991 in Somalia, and Baba Bush tried to send all the U.S. troops and made an explanation and said that we couldn't protect them and they could not provide their humanitarian aid. For this reason, we should send the troops to Somalia. However, if the state will be sufficient, then of course there won't be need for such actions. Therefore, the state should take the responsibilities. I'm not sure, but as far as I know, Baydoğal can have the humanitarian aid by the flights. So there will be an increase in terms of the finance. The functions should be fulfilled by the state first, then the NGO will fulfill the responsibilities. So my recommendation for the Somalians, if there will be a strong NGO relation, first the state should be restructured and all the differences should be ignored. Because we can see all around the world, if there won't be any state, there is nothing except for chaos and conflict. Thank you.
Ebner Bey and Cihangir Bey, Abu Dhar, yeah? Thank you very much for the presentation. This has been very informative. Now we will have our last presentation, and it is by Dr. Salah Ali Hassan. The presentation title is Turkish Contribution to Human Capital Development in Somalia, a Case of Higher Education in Mogadishu. Dr. Salah is currently the Dean of the Faculty of Computing of CIVMED University. Also, he is the co-founder and the Executive Director of the Seven Institute for Research and Development. He acquired his PhD in Information Technology from Shinawatra University in Thailand. His research interests are in the area of business technology, software engineering, human factors in the development of safety, critical systems, machine learning, and e-government systems. Welcome. I invite you to deliver your presentation, Dr. Salah.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm honored to participate in this international symposium. And first, I would like to thank the Excellency Ministers of both countries, Turkish and Somali, the chairman, Board of African Development, the organization committee, organizers of this event, sponsors for providing opportunity to present my paper in this conference. After that, today I am here to share with you Turkish contribution to human capital development in Somalia by taking as a case study in higher education. So we did this research based on this symposium, and we focused on two main objectives. The first objective is that to investigate the financial accessibility of Somali youth who graduate the secondary schools, the financial accessibility to higher education, the fresh graduate students who graduated the secondary schools before Turkish government came to assist in Somalia in 2011. And our second objective is that to assess or investigate the effect of Turkish contribution on unemployment rate in Somalia. So to achieve these two objectives, we tried and conducted to collect the primary data. We used the primary data and both secondary data. The first one, you can see it's not easy to get the primary data in a short time of period when your target is the beneficiaries of Turkish scholarships. But fortunately, and we are thankfully, we give thanks to Somali Turkish Alumni Organization who helped us to give a data that's about number of Somali graduates from Turkish university, or the people who took advantage that grant scholarships granted by Turkish government. And the second one, we used the secondary data narrated from World Bank to analyze the second objective, which is the unemployment rate in the last decade in Somalia. After that, we get a result that the number of financial accessibility in Somalia is a little bit different as the result shows. And the first part is that the data we have collected, or let's say our sample size consisted of 175 students, 175 graduate students. When I say graduate students, I mean the beneficiaries of Turkish scholarships. And 75% of them, they were male. As already said, Mama said that I don't have a figure that the female that benefited the beneficiary of the Turkish scholarships, but this figure, 25% is a female, but this figure might be different because this figure is based on the data we have collected, or the data we have, the data submitted by, let's say, the organizations of the alumni, Turkish-Somali organizations. So 75% are male as a demographic result, and 25% are female. That 75% of male, 95% of them, they are working right now. They are working right now, while a small portion of them are still fresh graduates and looking for a job. And the other thing is that the number of, when we have, we already distributed a questionnaire, and the number of the respondents said when we look for accessibility of the higher education, 65% they couldn't afford to access the higher education. 65% of that people who benefited or took advantage of the grants of Turkish scholarships. And almost 23% they said yes, we could afford to access that. Other 17% they said maybe we are not sure that we can access, but because they said they depend on their families. And that is the good. So when I'm saying 95% of that graduates are right now working, 45 of them, they work in academic, in higher education. They work in academic and higher education. I can give a good example. My university is called Symposium University, and almost in administrative, there are more than 10 persons who took advantage that grants or scholarship is given by a Turkish government. For example, the deputy director of the university is graduate from Turkey universities. The dean faculty of management and science, he took his PhD in Turkey, and he's the one of the first people who took advantage of that in 2012. The dean faculty of engineering, he is one of the beneficiaries. The head department faculty of computer science is one of the beneficiaries of Turkish department. The head of admission and records is one of beneficiaries. The director of international relations, he's currently studying a PhD in Turkish. And the head of public relations is one of the beneficiaries in 2015, 2016, he graduated. Head of admission and record of the university is the first lady that we have in the university that took advantage of that. So we can understand that the portion of the ladies is maybe 25%, as this study reveals. Overall, in my conclusion of this study, we revealed that the contribution of Turkish scholarship in higher education is portion of, we cannot say 100%, 100% will support the human capital development, because human capital development consists of a lot of components, but in higher education is one component that we can say 65% of the people who took advantage of that scholarship grantees didn't afford to access higher educations. And the result of that can be seen in the last decade, number of established new universities in Somalia. The research is not talking about the accreditation and the quality of the universities, but in a job creation, because of a lot of people committed that they can establish what they have learned from Turkish, and then they will provide their society. And the other important thing that the study reveals is that the last decade of when we, where's the next, please? Can I, next? I would like to show you a graph. Next, next one. This is the demographic that I have already explained. So, okay. This is the portion ourselves. Yeah, the final one. This. Okay, that's one. Next slide. Backslide. Okay, I understand. Thank you so much. And this graph, Somali unemployment rate, that's the second data that we have referenced from the World Bank. So we analyze it. So you can see the line, the graph line from 2013, it declines up to 2019. And 2019, then a little bit, the line trend is upward, maybe because of the pandemic COVID-19 in the world. So these three conclusions. The first one is that 65% of Somali secondary graduates will not afford to access tertiary education due to financial problems. And the study also reveals that Turkey's contribution to human capital development has significant impact on reduction of unemployment rate, as we have seen in the graph. And the study also presented the importance of the investment in human resources and suggests the support and encourage public and private education institutions. Finally, the study we have made recommends and suggests that our government come up with is a tough strategic or an infrastructure that committed to tighten the relationship between Turkish government. And I would like to conclude that. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Salah. You have finished on time, thanks. And thank you all the presenters and also the listeners. Indeed, this session, has discussed a very important theme. The presentations were interconnected, and they were all, pouring into the development of, society, strengthening, society, the capacity of society, so that peace and well-being can be achieved. So, without human capital development and good education, there cannot be peace and well-being. Also, without empowering our women, who are our mothers, our sisters, our daughters, without empowering them, we cannot also reach social development and well-being and good life. At the same time, the catalysts for development and very important players are the NGOs, so that, this peace and development and well-being can be finally achieved also. And we very much appreciate Turkey's contribution to all this. And I would like to now give to you so that you can ask your questions and also comments.
Thank you very much. My question goes to Ms. Zeynep. You mentioned in your presentation about the lack of awareness in terms of the women-led projects and also the criticisms to a certain extent coming from some segments of the Somali society in terms of Turkish contribution to the development in Somalia. In your assessment, is it because of lack of projects that are aiming to improve the conditions of women, also women-led projects, or is it because of the, let's say, communication, or both? What is your answer?
Go ahead.
Thank you so much for the question. I think to clarify the first one, there is not mainly a lack of women-run organizations, projects, or initiatives. There are many capable organizations led by women in Somalia that work either in development, in peace building, in humanitarian assistance, in justice reform, and so on, in all aspects. So that actually there isn't. But on the other hand, I think when we look at the overall, because this research that I did looked at not necessarily just women organizations and peace building per se, but also looked at through the lens of Turkey's policy to Somalia, which includes, that peace building includes development, It includes mainly humanitarian education and so on. So looking at it comprehensively. But I think if we look at it clearly, it's not just Turkey is avoiding or ignoring women organizations, but I think overall Turkey has not been supporting a lot of NGOs in Somalia and civil society, organizations or initiatives in general. However, I think, because the vast majority of beneficiaries are women, and women are the ones who bear, when conflict arises, I think empowering women and supporting women will yield better results and faster results. So that's where kind of I'm looking at. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
Any other question or comment?
Ben Türkçe sorayım.
I would like to ask my question in Turkish. Madam Zeynep's presentation. Her presentation has brought along lots of questions to us, and these questions will give way to solutions. I'm wondering about this. Communication, collaboration, the foundation of these. Maybe this is related to the mental foundation. It's a rather complex issue. Let me simplify by giving an example. This is what do I mean by mental foundation. When we take a look at the international humanitarian aid literature, we see that there is already a set list of phenomena. Let me give you an example. The moderator had a hardship describing the name Ebu Zer. Why? Because it was in Latin alphabet, but if it was in Arabic alphabet, he would be able to pronounce it very well. This is just an example to simplify the matter. I'm not talking about the language. It is about the mental background. Literature of women's NGOs, women's foundations, women's development through women. It doesn't exist in Turkey. Maybe this is the reason behind. What do you think? I hope my comment is understood.
Thank you. Abdul Karim.
Thank you for the presentation. There were many important points made, and I want to follow up on the human capital development that Dr. Saleh mentioned. There was a almost 2-year research done on human capital development in Somalia by the Heritage Institute for Policy Studies and City University, and one of the outcomes was tying the scholarships and education opportunities that are given to young Somalis to the development of the country. So the majority of the jobs in Somalia are agriculture related in the larger sense that it's farming, livestock, and fisheries. And since the scholarships that are given are open and people choose whatever they can, the idea was to tie these scholarships from Turkey and anywhere else to the needs of the country. Some of these recommendations were incorporated into the next 5-year plan of the Somali government by the Minister of Planning, who was here with us today. And I'm hoping that one of the recommendations perhaps coming out is to reinforce that and say that instead of giving scholarships for business administration or IT or what have you, the need now is for irrigation engineers and soil engineers and water engineers and so on and so forth. And so tying this to that would be helpful. My question to Dr. Saleh, there was a mention of many Somalis or some Somalis couldn't take advantage of the grants that was given or the scholarship that was given for financial reasons. I didn't quite understand why they couldn't take advantage if it was a full scholarship given by the Turks. I understand in cases where people are paying for themselves, but if it's a full scholarship, what were the issues of access? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, the number of people who cannot take advantage of the scholarship, I do not mean cannot, 65% cannot take advantage of the scholarships. But I mean 65% of the people who graduate from secondary schools couldn't afford to access higher education in Somalia. So they took advantage. Turkish scholarships finally. So that's why, I think maybe there's misunderstanding. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Clarify. Thank you.
Herkese merhaba.
Hello, everyone. My question goes to Altekin Bey. The NGOs in Somalia. You talked about the need of protection. What do you mean by protection? I guess you misunderstood me. What I meant is protection is a civilian function. This is a concept. So, providing protection to those who are vulnerable. Let me give you an example. The white berets in Syria, the civil protection. If there is a person who is under the threat of any group, you need to protect it. Imagine an orphan, it needs to be protected. If there's a woman who has no one to help her, you need to protect her. This is not just about physical protection, the protection of identity, protection of psychology, there are many different subfields. But the protection officer, it's not like security officer. This is a profession. We don't have that profession too, just like the gentleman said. Of course, UN has it all around, but our humanitarian aid institutions, they need to employ protection officers professionally. We need to establish those units. There are certain NGOs providing accommodation to provide protection so that they are not left out of. Or let's speak of the example of Somalia. If a person is in close proximity to a clan, then you protect them. But if you do not have anyone to support you, then you are vulnerable. Of course, this is a very soft field, and the realities do not match literature. For example, the topic of women, the level of violence, security, the approach of state and media, all of them play a major role. They need to work in coordination with one another. If there is a strong civilian area, then women's NGOs, agencies can be involved, and we can improve the phenomena of protection. I'm not talking about protecting NGOs, I'm talking about NGOs providing the function of protection. In order to fulfill that, they need to have a certain capacity, a professional capacity. You just need to establish such a unit. Imagine in a conflict zone, when the NGOs are distributing food parcels, if those NGOs are taking pictures, then they are violating the protection. Look at our humanitarian aid workers. What do? They take pictures with the children that receive aid, with children, with youngsters, with women, but you are violating the protection of those people. Did you receive consent? Did you ask their approval? Imagine that person is being searched by an enemy, then you are exposing this person. So, this unit of protection, they should be careful about that. What kind of images can I do? How can I promote my activities? But when we take a look at the activities in the field, it's the opposite. Civil society is not limited to delivering food parcels. You should be able to protecting them. The protection concept is a large concept, and this is one dimension. In a very narrow sense, it's about demining, protecting orphans, women, people with disabilities. There is also civilian defense, such as white berets. But in the general sense, it's a very broad concept. When you take food, you shouldn't take pictures of children, youth, women. What kind of photos then should we use then you need to think about that. You need to improve yourself in the field of protection. There are certain terrorist organizations that recruit militants. So you are actually taking pictures of people. There is mafias of organ harvesting. There is organs of prostitution. I know you may have goodwill, but you don't know what you are exposing. So we need protection officers, protection volunteers. Sorry about that, moderator, for taking so long.
Actually, for past few years, there has been a social work program that has been established in Somalia and supported by UNICEF. 5 universities, including City University, are providing, bachelors of social work. And social work is a field in which the concept of protection is central, and also I hope then there will be more professionals who will be able to practice this function, do this function of protection, so that women, children, people who are vulnerable are all protected, inshallah.
Thank you very much, all of you, for the presentations. My name is Abdirashid Hashi. I'm the former director of the Heritage Institute. And in 2016, we have done a study on Turkish assistance to Somalia, and the title was Achieving Little with Much. And actually, it was much because, as the letter from the president said, it's about $1 billion investment in Somalia. But if you compare with what the other international partners have been investing in Somalia for the past 20 years, they have spent trillions of dollars. But unfortunately, as all the presenters said, that touched the Somali citizens' heart. And I stood up to, amplify what Zainab said, which is, I think now, the next decade, the Turkish investment in Somalia should focus on the Somali woman and the Somali women's initiatives, because they create less chaos, they create less problems, and their efforts in Somalia is actually almost all good. So I'm just standing to, since she said, all the academics, all the presenters, all the policymakers were men, I would like to use my little voice to amplify that and say hopefully the next decade will focus much on the efforts of our women, because they are force for good and they have been there for us. And while we mess up the country as men, they were actually picking up the pieces. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and good morning, all of you. I just want to comment on the studies that you have done and the results that you have shared with us. And you have already mentioned the challenges and the weakness of the study because of the short time. But this was just a startup for this decade. But as much as we are coming in now to the upcoming decade, we need to rely on the researchers. Which area is neglected or understaffed? The human capital, as a lot of speakers said, is the integral part of the development. So unless you plan where is very important and you prioritize, you will not achieve the target. So there are, in the productive sector, especially in the aviation, in the marine science and fisheries, in the petroleum industry. The other things, people and the students, if they did not get the career counseling and from both sides, especially from the Somali side, they will end up the common, specialization is that are upfront, but now we need to, as His Excellency the Minister said, we need to plan and based on the G2G, government to government, which area we need to focus. Then that is the time that we will capitalize and take the advantage of the opportunities that the Turkish government are giving to Somali people. So you can start as researchers, which area is neglected and which area is understaffed, because at the end of the day, you cannot capitalize your resources unless you have the knowledge and the science and the innovationists. So I would like to recommend you as researchers, we will rely on you to focus now sector-based, Yes, you said 65%, now 95%, as you said, Dr. Musa, are working in the academic sector, which is very important because they are in the human production, sector. But we need to have also who else is, which sector they are in, and which sector is we are going to focus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Evet, öncelikle çok teşekkür ediyorum tüm
First of all, I'd like to thank all the speakers, all the participants. My question goes to Madam Zeynep. Of course, other friends can also answer. When we take a look at the economic development of Somalia, it also brings cultural transformation as well. As well as we can see, Somalia has wonderful traditions, especially the family structure is very strong. If somebody from the family wants to get education, they get together to make sure that this person gets education. Or if there is need for treatment, then they get together for treatment. Do you have any concerns about protecting your own culture? Or do you have any activities for preserving it? Are you working on this field? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. Absolutely, there are a lot of positive things about the Somali culture. However, sometimes also conflict impacts culture because there are some traditional ways that things were done prior to the Civil War that currently are not as strong as they used to be. Also, the role, when we are talking about gender roles, conflict and changes that. When Somalia has a long, 30 years of failed state to fragile state. And I think some of the things that happened is that, in conflict, men, die, obviously. Because of the conflict, more of them. There are also, because of the conflict and stress and trauma, that creates also impacts family structure, higher divorces are there. And then all these, because a lot of men could not find jobs, women had to step up to become the breadwinners of the families. There are at least 60% of businesses in Somalia are led by women, even though they are not like the upper, multi-million, businesses. If you look at and go to the markets, you see a lot of women working. You go to the streets, you see women selling in kiosks and so, because they have to provide for the family. So yes, we preserve our culture and we try to as much as we can. However, sometimes the conflict in itself and also the involvement, because you can see, I'm positively sure, in many Muslim countries, there has been changes over the years. For instance, in Somalia, when I was growing up and today, there is a much difference. And I'm assuming also even in Turkey, if you look at like 40, 50 years ago and today, there are some changes. So cultures are not stagnant. But what we need to do is to to preserve the good parts of the culture and also alter and try to change some of the negative aspects that come. Not necessarily it's cultural, but it happens. I mean, because the world is changing, there are a lot of problems, and when poverty, conflict, and all these are combined, obviously it changes the behavior of humans. So we need a lot of, trauma healing. We need social reconciliation to start from the grassroots level, from neighbor to neighbor, so people can become more trusting each other and become more brothers and sisters before the way they used to be before the conflict. Because now trust is lost between, you can call it, clans, you can call it whatever you call it. There has been a lot of problems that has happened, damages that has been done, that needs to go back. And also there is a need for a shared vision in between, Somalis. I mean, mainly whether it is not necessarily just women and men, but overall. We have to focus on what is our vision as Somalis for the future. How can we have a common shared vision? How can we reconcile? How can we build the peace? How can we build institutions? Because at the end of the day, without strong institutions, a country cannot survive and cannot reach where we want Somalia to go. So yeah, it needs a lot of work, and that the culture that changed by the conflict needs to be changed back again. So I can just conclude that. I can keep going, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Zainab. And this concludes our first session. We have, of course, other sessions to go. So I'm sorry if you had a question. But keep thinking about these, themes and keep reflecting and take note, inshallah, and come back for the other sessions, for the other presentations, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. We'll give you certificates.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I'll come back.
Loud and clear now. Abu Zar al-Ghafari. Thank you. Thank you.
And you.
Oh,
Yours.
okay. Did I earn it? I don't know.
Yeah, you moderated the whole session.